Hello everyone and welcome to a wonderful game that was played yesterday in the Champions Chess Tour Finals. It is Wesley So versus Magnus Carlsen. This is the game you guys suggested the most as it's from the Armageddon round of the Wesley So versus Magnus Carlsen matchup. Now, in the first game, Wesley has beaten Magnus. Magnus blundered a full rook in a pretty equal position. Then Magnus retaliated by winning a pretty spectacular game, and this is now game 3, where they are in Armageddon, and as usual in Armageddon you get less time with the black pieces. However, if the game is a draw, then the player wielding the black pieces will win the game. And as this is the first game I'm showing from this event, yes, it's a 10+0 tournament, a rapid tournament. I actually enjoy playing this format very much if you've ever seen my games online. And here are the players. You can see from left to right, top row to bottom. Jani Pomniši, Maksim Vašilagrav, Alireza Firužđa, Denis Lazovic, Wesley So, Vincent Keimer, and Levon Aronyan, and one person is missing, obviously Magnus Carlsen, and Magnus is here enjoying his own special chair. You can see that he has all the beverages and maybe even some ice cream there. If any of you can guess the position on the board, I will pin your comment. So good luck with that. Now let's check out the game and see why it's so nice. And yes, as the title suggests, we don't know how he does it, but he just does it. Wesley with white opens with pawn to e4, as one often does when he needs to win the game. We have pawn to c5. Magnus, as usual, counters e4 with a Sicilian. We have knight f3 and pawn to e6. We have pawn to d4. Open Sicilian is the best if you want to win the game. We have c captures, knight captures, pawn to a6. Magnus going for the Khan variation of the Sicilian, and Wesley says, all right, you're going for a sideline, I'm going for a sideline of a sideline. Plays pawn to g3, also maybe like the 6th most popular continuation against the Khan. Pawn to d5, and now knight to b3. Getting the knight to a bit of a safer square. Knight to f6, putting pressure on e4, and now e captures on d5. We have e captures, bishop to g2, and now there are a couple of games that have reached this position from the stronger players. Arjan Tari had this position against Peter Svidler. Bishop to g4 was played. Their game ended in a draw. It was last year in the World Rapid Championship. But here we have knight to c6 by Magnus, and it is now, as of move 8, that we have a completely new game. The top move here is bishop to b4 check, actually, which was played in some lesser-known games. But okay, completely new game, move 8. Castles by Wesley and bishop to e7. We have bishop to e3, castles by Magnus, and knight to c3. Okay, now there's some actual pressure on that d5 pawn, and Magnus has to defend it. How do you defend it? Well, nothing other than bishop to e6 comes to mind, and it is the best move, so Magnus plays it. You can also play pawn to a5, but that also involves sacrificing the d5 pawns for some a5 knight to b4 counterplay, which will be useful later on, but with little time on the clock, not so easy. And you can see that the Magnus started with 6 minutes versus Wesley's 10, and Wesley already down to 8 minutes and 40 seconds. h3, we have rook to c8 by Magnus and pawn to a3, rook to e8, and rook to e1. We have pawn to h6. Both players just playing some useful moves. King to h2, so you can play f4 at some point. We have bishop to d6 now, nicely aligning the bishop with the king on this diagonal, and knight to d4. Offering a trade, and while Magnus could play something like knight to e5, and probably he even should, or maybe even knight to a5, now Magnus just starts trading pieces, as the title suggests. Knight captures on d4, bishop captures on d4, and now bishop to c5. Okay, trading further trading pieces with knight to e2, bishop captures, and now knight captures. And with all of these trades, Magnus didn't really achieve all that much. If anything, he gave Wesley an active d4 square for his knight. But okay, he does have something in mind. Queen to b6 puts pressure on the b2 pawn, and now Wesley plays rook to e3. You might think, okay, you could also just defend it. Rook to e3 is defending the pawn, but with a tactic. No doubt you guys don't need to see why you cannot capture the b2 pawn. But there are a few uncles watching, so just in case you're wondering, if queen captures rook to b3, will trap the black queen. So after rook to e3, we have bishop to d7. Magnus now offering further trades, and Wesley declines. Rook to b3 attacks the queen, and queen to a7, with continuing pressure on that knight on d4. So it is a bit difficult to develop your queen. If you play something like queen d3, then the rook will not be able to go back to the king side. So, you know, it's definitely a question. And while you might be interested in playing a move like pawn to c3, you don't want to do it with the rook on b3. So king to g1, also the f2 pawn will be undefended if the knight moves. So it's very, very hard for Wesley to move pieces. We have knight to e4, and now rook back to e3. Magnus goes queen back to b6, and now Wesley plays rook to b1. Defends the b2 pawn, so you no longer have to play rook to b3. We have knight to g5 now, and rook back to b3. Attacks the queen, queen back to a7, and pawn to h4, chasing away the knight, knight e4, and now rook back to e3. Magnus says, alright, queen back to b6, and Wesley says, alright, rook back to b3. Attacks the queen on b6, queen to a7, and now rook to e3. Magnus again repeats, checking if Wesley will repeat one more time, because of course a draw is enough for Magnus. So Wesley doesn't, plays pawn to c3. But you're not making sort of a concession, because c3 is indeed the best move recommended by the engine. And now knight to f6. Magnus just continues trading. We have knight to c2 and bishop to f5. And this knight to c2 was where things really have gone wrong for Wesley. He was, you know, he had a great position. He, well, an equal one, and trying to make some progress, he had to maybe allow Magnus a bit too much. And knight to c2 was definitely not the way to go. Probably capturing on e8, and then maybe you move the queen, bring the other rook into the game. But it's all very hard with the b2 pawn hanging. Probably just rook captures, you play pawn to b4, so b2 is no longer a target, and then you activate pieces. But now this will be very, very hard to eliminate. And again, you should capture and play pawn to b4. That would be the best. But Wesley played rook to f3, and now Magnus is, well, winning. We have to say it as it is, and I'm sure you guys know what he played, even without me showing it. Bishop to e4. That's the move. The reason I'm not making it a pause the video moment, because I probably already have made a thumbnail for this, and yeah, I put this position on the thumbnail, so I'm not gonna lie. That's the way it is. But yeah, bishop to e4, and by playing rook to f3, Wesley really messed up, because well, it seems like we can just go back to e3, because, okay, it's no longer attacked by the rook, but the problem is if you play rook to e3, then d4 happens, and then look at this. You can't play captures on d4, because the knight on c2 would hang, so you have to go back, rook to e1, and then, let's say, bishop g6, you offer a trade, and even if queen captures on d4, I mean, there's nothing else for you to play. Like rook captures on e1 is coming, d captures on c3, White's entire position will fall apart here. And even if something like queen captures on d4, which you can play, again, you will give up the exchange on b1. So that's the way that it will happen. Maybe White can hold this, but should be winning for black. So here rook to f4 was played, which is pretty much well, not quite the same. Could be even better for Magnus. Magnus plays pawn to g6, obviously. Pawn to g5 takes away any squares from the rook. H captures, and now the rook has to go somewhere, and that somewhere is on e4. Rook captures on e4, d captures on e4, and now knight to e3. Finally, the knight gets developed, but now Magnus just has too much material. We have rook c to d8. Again, very simple chess, attacks the queen. Queen to e2, and now queen to b5. Again, knight to d5 is the way to go, but queen b5 is also sufficient for a win, and a more simpler move, if you will. The reason why it would be better to go knight d5 right away is because now Wesley plays c4, and he takes away the d5 square. So Magnus will have to work a little bit harder for the win here. Queen to e5, and now rook to e1. We have rook to d3. The moves are simply showing themselves. Knight to g4, knight captures, queen captures, and now rook to d4. Again, you could play something like e3, it's enough for a win. Magnus goes rook to d4, puts pressure on the c4 pawn, queen to e2, and now pawn to e3. We have f captures on e3, and here Magnus just played queen captures on g3, and he was in this position on move 43 that Wesley so resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So Magnus wins the match, and it was a pretty fine victory. He didn't need a win, he just achieved it by playing simple moves, and it's very hard to counter simple moves. Best you could hope for is you can't really trade queens, that's pointless. Best you could hope for is maybe to play this, but I think Wesley was not interested in even trying, because the white king is too wide open, and a simple move like, let's say, queen d3 attacks the rook, attacks both of the pawns, you will start losing some material. So the queen is far too powerful. You know, a couple of more moves and already, yeah, you could be getting checkmated. So yeah, after queen captures on g3, Wesley resigned, and a very nice victory for Magnus Carlsen, who after the first day of the Champions Chess Tour Finals is leading the tournament with 3 full points alongside Denis Lazovic. So it's a co-lead with 2 points Yanni Pomnishi, with 1 point Wesley Som MBL, Vincent Kamera, Reza Firuja, and with 0 points for the moment the legendary Levon Arunyan. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very much looking forward to games today. Be sure to use that hashtag suggestion, as it is much easier for me to find very nice games. Some of you suggested some other games, but I always say when you're suggesting games that were played in quicker time formats, like even 10+0 is a quicker time format, or even, you know, if you're suggesting bullet or blitz games, some games are much more interesting to watch watch on a live stream than they are to be dissected in an analysis after the game. So that there, you know, well, some of the games are really insane to watch, like insanely good to watch when they're actually being played live, because it's exciting. Actually analyzing those moves afterwards doesn't really make much sense. So, well, you know, you guys have requested a lot of games. This is the one I have chosen, and that's why you should always suggest many games. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank John Malpass, Henry Alme, Eric Anderson, Casey Jones, and Kim Dolman for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, such as this one, and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And once again, Magnus, playing simple moves, simple chess, that is the best way to play. See you soon.